We thought we'd planned for everything. Extra flashlights, a map of the area, even backup batteries for our gear. But there's one thing you can never prepare for: the moment you realize you've gone too far, and something is watching you from the darkness. And by the time we realized it, it was already too late. It was supposed to be a thrilling adventure, nothing more. I'm part of a small group of paranormal investigators, not professionals. Just a handful of enthusiasts who get a thrill from exploring the unknown. That night, we were investigating Blackwood Forest, an infamous stretch of wilderness with rumors of strange lights, disembodied whispers, and missing hikers. The team consisted of me, my best friend Jason, and two other members, Sarah and Mike. We arrived just before sunset, armed with cameras, F-recorders, and a healthy dose of skepticism. The forest seemed ordinary enough at first. Tall pines swayed gently in the cool evening breeze, and the chirping of crickets filled the air. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, a suffocating silence took its place. Blackwood had its own strange energy, an oppressive weight that settled over us as we ventured deeper into its shadows. We set up our base near an old, crumbling fire tower deep in the woods, using it as a reference point in case we got lost. Jason took out the map, and we split up into pairs, each heading in a different direction. It didn't take long for things to feel off. The air was colder than should have been, and the usual sounds of nocturnal animals were absent. Our footsteps felt unnaturally loud against the leaf-strewn ground, and the beam of my flashlight seemed weaker, swallowed by the darkness ahead. "Do you feel that?" Sarah whispered beside me. "What?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "It's like we're being watched." I dismissed it at first. We'd been in eerie places before, and the mind had a way of playing tricks. But then we heard a faint rustling sound, like something moving just out of sight. We froze, shining our lights into the trees, but the forest stared back, silent and still. After regrouping at the fire tower, we compared notes. Jason and Mike had heard the same rustling, though neither could pinpoint its source. Determined to document something, anything, we decided to press on. About an hour later, we stumbled upon a clearing. At its center stood an ancient-looking stone altar, covered in moss and etched with unrecognizable symbols. Jason, ever the skeptic, laughed nervously. "Well, this is straight out of a horror movie." Sarah began taking photos while Mike set up an EVP recorder. I stayed back, uneasy, clawing at my chest. That's when the whispering started. At first, it was so faint, I thought I was imagining it, a soft, breathy murmuring coming from all directions. The others heard it too, their faces pale as they looked around. "Hello," Jason called out, his voice cracking. The whispers stopped abruptly, replaced by a low, guttural growl. Panic set in. "We need to leave," Sarah said, her voice trembling. Jason, trying to maintain his bravado, insisted we stay just a little longer. That's when we noticed something horrifying. Our flashlights, which had been shining brightly just moments ago, began to flicker. One by one, they failed, plunging us into near darkness. The only light came from the faint glow of the moon filtering through the tree. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed through the clearing, like a tree branch breaking under immense weight. We turned toward the sound, our breaths hitching as we saw it, two glowing eyes staring back at us from the shadows. They were high off the ground, as if belonging to something impossibly tall. Jason fumbled for his camera, but the creature, or whatever it was, let out a deafening screech, and the trees around us seemed to tremble. We ran, blindly stumbling through a forest. We tried to find our way back to the fire tower, but nothing looked familiar. The trees seemed to close in, their twisted branches like clawed hands reaching for us. Behind us, Heavy footsteps followed, slow and deliberate, as if the thing stalking us was toying with its prey. I glanced back once and immediately regretted it. The figure was closer now, a tall, shadowy silhouette with unnaturally long limbs, its glowing eyes fixed on us. Sarah tripped and screamed, but Jason and I hauled her to her feet, adrenaline driving us forward. The fire tower finally came into view, its rusted frame silhouetted against the dark sky. We climbed as fast as we could, the metal ladder creaking under our weight. From the top, we could see it circling below, its inhuman shape barely visible in the gloom. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished. But the terror wasn't over. When we descended hours later, thinking it was safe, we found our base completely destroyed, our equipment smashed, and our map shredded. Scrolled in the dirt were 3 words: "You are marked." We never spoke of that night again, and none of us ever returned to Blackwood Forest. But even now, years later, I feel its presence. Sometimes when I'm alone, I hear faint whispers, like the forest is calling me back. Do you believe in the unknown? What would you have done if you were in our shoes? If this story gave you chills, click here to watch another tale of terrifying encounters that will leave you questioning reality. Until next time, stay safe and beware of what watches you in the dark.